Still twirling around.
twirling around, twirling around, twirling around, twirling around.
I think we're
Oh yeah, there we go. Whoa. Uh, oh yeah, hey, oh yeah. Oh wow, I fell asleep for a little bit
Yeah, I
there. Yeah,
know.
yeah. Welcome to the Vinny Mac Show. You have to forgive us. We were just looking at the Biden presidential speech, his first ever speech,
Yeah.
and I fell asleep.
You fell asleep. It was
Yeah,
a press conference. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, by the way, you're watching the Vinny Mac Show.
Yes, you're watching the Vinny Mac Show, so hopefully this will be more stimulating.
Yeah, and I'm the special guest enemy, Kalazar.
Kayla's on.
Oh, by the way, this is the second show I've done today,
Uh-huh.
and I'm wearing a whole different ensemble and everything. So compared, so people will think it's a different day, but it's not a different day. But what's most important is I want I'm plugging my other show I was on the
Hmm.
Mary Elizabeth
Mary
Variety Show.
Elizabeth
I was
variety
on the
show. I
Keith.
love you, Mary Elizabeth.
Yeah, we
Mhm.
all love you, and then
Yes.
and we love you, Keith. And I did
Yep.
Keith's show too every once in a while, and then of course Gorgeous George I appear on every once in a while.
Hmm.
So what I'm trying to say is I'm trying very hard,
Hmm.
especially today,
Uh-huh.
not repeating everything I said before. So I'm going to do my best so you can watch them both and
Yes.
get the most out of both. So
Yes. Is it feel like you're in the Joker's wild conundrum?
yeah,
It's like they say that they film every day, but
yes.
they film all 5 shows in one day.
Oh, I can tell you all about that. We
Hmm.
talk about game shows all the time, and
Yes.
and and they film 5 shows. I don't know about Joker. I mean, Joker's Wild. I don't think is all that different from it. I mean, Jeopardy's not all that different,
No, no.
but a
Mm-mm.
show with celebrities on it, like Match Game,
Yes.
or what's the other one? It was Match Game, or Hollywood Squares.
Hollywood
But
Squares.
they
Yeah.
would have take after the third show, they would take a break, a long lunch, and they would get them drunk. So when you watch, and if you know, there's 5 shows Monday through Friday. When you watch the Thursday, even though it was all filmed in one day, when
Uh-huh.
you watch the Thursday and Friday show, they were considerably laughing more and not making a whole lot of sense.
It's like Peter Wayne, we got a question for you. How do you stop fishes from smelling? And he always says, you cut off their little noses.
How you cut off their noses. But yeah, and I think in his case it got kind of out of hand, so they
Mhm.
had to. I think they eventually fired him, and
Yeah.
he didn't live much longer after that. He might have drank
Mhm.
himself to that. Who knows? But he only lived to like 46 or something. So
What?
anyway, yeah, I mean, he died suddenly. It wasn't like he. They think he may have been taking a certain drug called poppers, which I have to admit I once took
Mhm.
in college, and it
Ooh.
almost like can give you a heart attack. And I only took it once, and I said, and you think he said, how's this going to end? I said, they said, you don't take drugs. I said, okay, it's only going to last a minute. I could take this. I could last this, and it's not against the law, but it was something that was. I mean, it was against the law if you abuse it.
Uh-huh.
But I think that's what killed him. And if you do it
Wow.
on a regular basis, you might build up a tolerance to it,
Oh
and
my
it may stop your
goodness.
heart, like that. So
Thank you for that. Because
yeah,
I thought Paul Lynn lived to be an old man.
no, no,
Wow.
no. In fact, I think, like for like a month or two, because they filmed all these shows, sort of like Alex Trebek when he died,
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Yep.
suddenly,
Mm-hmm.
and still doing the show. They had like a 2 or 3 months of him,
Yes.
and you knew he was gone, and still
Mm.
being typical stuff.
Wow.
And Paul Lind was so like I said, they would get them drunk,
Yep.
and you could see there are certain people that could handle it a little better,
Mm-hmm.
like I think Charles Nelson Riley, and
Yes.
maybe even Paul Lind, but other people, comedians usually because they're used to bars and stuff and
Uh-huh.
working in places where they serve alcohol, they're kind of used to it. But people like actors. They usually do all their drinking after the show. They don't do it. They try not
Yes.
to do it unless you're John Barrymore or somebody. Try not to do it before. Uh, or Richard Harris or
Oh,
somebody.
Richard Harris. Yeah.
Yeah. So and we've been actors together in
Mm-hmm.
shows, and
Yep.
and and I don't drink anymore, but I made always sure that I don't. As soon as I step, it's being an actor, especially in the theater, is hard enough being sober.
Yes.
Why would
Yes.
you want to get drunk? Now a lot of rock and roll singers, they're just
Mhm.
wasted all the time, and
Oh
it
my
seems not to
goodness.
affect. I mean, as far as their fans go, it seems not to affect their work. Is it? They're not any better sober.
Nope.
Put them out there. But so you watched the Biden.
Yes, I well
Um,
actually I didn't.
it was a press
It was a
conference,
press conference, and
which are harder
uh-huh,
because they don't know they can feel for the questions, but they
uh-huh,
don't. It's not like they're just giving a speech and then leaving.
yes,
They're actually have to think on their feet,
yes,
and it's not
yes.
always easy. So how did he do?
Well, I heard he fumbled and stumbled a little bit, just like he was walking up Air Force One.
Saw him do that, yeah. But he seemed to be all right. I it's rough to walk upstairs, especially. But he's almost
Yeah,
80 years old.
that
He is
is
the
true.
oldest president.
He is?
Yeah, now, everyone thinks of Reagan as being the oldest president,
Yeah.
but Reagan was 69 when he was elected, and then actually he
Oh, okay.
was beaten. A lot of people have run that were even older than Reagan, like Bob Dole was in his 70s,
Yep, yep.
and then Trump won, and he's, believe it or not, older than Reagan. He was like 71 or
71,
something, and
yeah.
then Biden's older than Trump. You had two guys in the last election.
Uh-huh.
Old enough to be your grandfather,
Yes.
and our grandfathers.
So in the next election, who are we going to put in? Moses?
Most, we're gonna put in the ghost of Strom Thurmond, who was 100 years old and still an acting
Yes,
senator.
still an acting senator at
Yeah,
100.
yeah,
Still had his mind, believe it or not. Yeah.
yeah. It's
Mhm.
very important. I think I mentioned this on another show that
Uh-huh.
Strom Thurmond was, he was like the most vitriolic
Mhm.
guy ever to run for president. He ran in
Yep.
1948 for the Dixiecrats,
Yes. Mhm.
hateful
Mhm.
and segregationist and all this stuff.
Mhm.
And Trent Lott got in trouble, I think, on his 100th birthday or some birthday he had, on Strom, and Strom Thurmond was there. He should have been our man, and he should have been president in 1948. He would have
Uh-huh.
been better than any of them. And I actually said to somebody, I said,
Uh-huh.
I was watching it live, and I said, I think that's going to haunt Trent Lott. Trent Lott wound up having to resign from his post in the Senate. He didn't resign from the Senate,
Mhm.
but and what's weird is he got in trouble, but Strom Thurmond, who was still alive, did not get any, because
Yeah.
by that time Strom Thurmond's kind of mellowed, and
He's
he wasn't as,
mellow.
like a lot of
Yeah.
politicians. They may be one way at, maybe early in their career to get elected, but
Yep.
then a lot of them change and they're not as mean. He was
Yeah.
actually kind of curmudgeonly
Yes,
by
yes,
the end,
yes.
Strom Thurmond. What harm could 100-year-old guy
I
do?
know. And believe it or not, in his family, his
Mm.
granddaughter,
His
um,
daughter.
or was his daughter married a black man?
No, it was worse. It was, I would say, worse than that. But
Huh?
it turned out he retired. After he retired, it was. I don't think it was. I think it was one of those things. You can't really keep these things that much a secret.
Uh-huh.
He fathered a African American daughter,
What?
and which means evidently he wasn't as racist as we as we thought. He and she wasn't young. When she was like,
Wow.
when she was like 65 years old or
Oh
something.
my
He was
goodness.
100. So his daughter is
Wow.
going to be, not, Strom Thurmond is supporting, married. I don't know what happened to his first wife. I don't know if she
Hmm.
died or something, but he married a second wife, a much younger woman in her 20s, and he was in
Wow.
his 60s, I think.
Oh
And what
golly.
happened was, and they had kids. And here's the old man in the
What?
60s, 70s having kids, and his wife eventually divorced him, the second wife, because,
Uh-huh.
is this guy ever going to die? I didn't expect to marry this guy for the
Oh
long
my
haul.
goodness. Oh
My dad
wow.
calls that a football marriage.
Yes.
She's waiting for him to kick off. He won't kick. Most famous would be Charo.
Yes.
Charo
Sorrow, yes.
was 25 years old, if you remember, in her, the Love Boat and stuff.
Hmm.
And she had a husband that was 50 years older than her. He was a famous guy too. He's
Yeah.
Xavier Cugat,
Hmm.
and she used to always talk about Cugat and on talk shows and stuff. But there's only one time ever I think I saw them together on the Merv Griffin show. It was also the last time I saw Cugat. Cugat was probably 80 years old, but
Oh my
Cugat was a
goodness.
band leader in the 40s
Yes.
from
Yes.
where is he from?
Is he from Colombia?
I don't. I might be from Cuba.
Cuba.
No, I know where he's from. He's from
Oh,
Spain.
Spain. Okay.
But he
Okay.
played that type of Latin music, you know.
Okay.
And I heard a funny story about who got his start with Cugat's band in the early
Uh-huh.
'40s was Desi Arnaz,
Yes, Desi
and
Arnaz.
Desi
Yes.
Arnaz was Cuban,
Mm-hmm.
and he talked about this on a talk show. It was very funny. He was saying that Cugat. He said, "I want to start my own band,
Uh-huh.
and we could actually. It's not a bad thing. I could still play in the Cugat band on the
Uh-huh.
bongos and everything,
Yeah.
but I want my, and then we could warm up as
Uh-huh.
the warm up for your band when the big orchestra comes out, the
Yes.
Xavier Cugat band."
Yes.
So Desi Arnaz was talking about Cugat said, and give me a few of the musicians, and he said he
Uh-huh.
had and he was playing Latin music, mambo music and stuff,
Oh.
and Cugat was playing like Spanish music, which is
Okay.
different.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying that he gave him like a Jewish violin player. He gave him oh, this is really funny. He gave him a Mexican drummer, and he had to get
Oh.
and they all played loud all together. And then Desi Arnaz worked them into shape. He
Uh-huh.
said that what was terrible with the Spanish drummer was, I did not realize this,
Uh-huh.
but when a Spanish musician plays in a Latin band, he
Uh-huh.
doesn't sound like a Cuban or a Colombian or a Mexican.
Mm-hmm.
He sounds like he's bringing in the music, the paso doble for the bullfighter to get in the ring. Dun 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 dun. People don't dance to that. They stand at attention. He said there were. I remember, and I thought this was a great line. He
Yeah,
actually said,
yeah.
Desi Arnaz said about Cugat. He
Uh-huh.
said that he said that the band was so terrible when he first got it
Uh-huh.
that he would have done better with the Salvation Army band.
Oh.
We can get you some
Oh.
clothes from there too.
Oh, wow.
But
So basically, if Kugat
yeah.
would have done maybe a little bit better, you think he would have overtaken Desi Arnaz and probably got his own show, just like
Well,
I was.
Kugat was always kind of old. Kugat was always popular. He was on. You see him in old movies and stuff,
Okay, okay, okay,
and he had the
okay.
hit songs, Tico Tico, and in
Oh
fact, a
yeah,
lot of
Tico
songs
Tico. Okay.
that My Shawl was his theme song. But he had all those songs, Peanut Bender, all the
Mm-hmm.
songs, and they were basically. And when Desi Arnaz started, he was playing the same style of
Okay.
songs, and all the Latin bands were playing those,
Mm-hmm.
Machito
Mm-hmm.
and who else? I'm trying to the guy Perez Prado
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and then it goes on all the way to that song Mambo Number Five. A little bit,
Mambo.
but that guy, yeah, and so the Latin, when you think about great dances of the
Yes.
20th century,
Mm-hmm.
they're all from South America,
Exactly.
or
Yeah.
and I have a joke about how terrible a friend of mine was, who was a
Uh-huh.
dancer.
Oh,
He
oh,
ended the Begin.
oh, oh,
Now the song "Begin to Begin" was written by
uh-huh,
Cole Porter, and
uh-huh.
Cole Porter, it was this dance craze in Brazil,
Yes.
and it was on its way to America. So
Mm-hmm.
he thought, well, on the edge. I will write a new song that everyone will dance to when the
Mm-hmm.
Begin comes to America. The
Mm-hmm.
Begin never came to America, but we have the song. When they begin, the begin. Yeah. Great song. Well,
Kugat, let me tell you, was he jealous of Arnaz?
I think a lot these old guys, once they get, well, I mean, he still got Charo.
Yeah, yeah.
And he had a
Yeah,
wife
yeah, yeah,
before
yeah.
that was young,
Yep, yep, yep,
that's
yep.
still alive, and Charo's still alive.
Uh-huh.
Abby Lane from New York, and she knew like all these languages. She sang in all these different languages. She's still
Uh-huh.
around. And I think I saw her on the Love Boat, Abby
What?
Lane too. And she's still around, these old guys, they want
Uh-huh.
to keep their power. They want to
Mm-hmm.
keep on the
Mm-hmm.
edge and
Yes,
everything.
yes.
It's,
Hmm.
it's very important.
You know what, Charo? I love Charo very
Mm.
much. I always watch the Hollywood Squares just for her.
Charo, yeah.
Yes, Charo. Coochie, 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 coochie.
She
Yeah.
was a lot of people didn't know. I mean, you get a glimpse of this on a talk show or something. She didn't
Uh-huh.
act like this dumb immigrant mangling the
Okay.
language and all, which was she. I think a lot of it was an act, but
Oh.
she this is really weird.
Hmm.
She was a very good guitarist and a Spanish.
Yeah.
She's from Spain, and
Yes.
she learned how to play the guitar, flamenco guitar, from a disciple of like Segovia, who was the
Hmm.
greatest, like of the 20th century, greatest flamenco guitarist of all.
Hmm.
So when you saw her like on a talk show, it was almost like Andy Kaufman. She would act kind of crazy on it,
Yeah, yeah,
and then
yeah,
with
yeah.
in the interview, and then they'd give her a guitar, zoom, 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 and she was great. And then
Yes.
you know?
Yeah, yeah. I think I seen her one time at Johnny Carson doing that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
got to do it every once in a while. Yeah,
yeah. Charles, she's just amazing.
I have a Charo CD,
Yeah.
and this is great. I got it in Brazil when I was
Uh-huh.
there, and one of the things, you don't really have to do this anymore because of the internet, but one of the things I loved doing was when I went to a different country, I would
Hmm.
see what CDs and what in the stores. Sometimes they had local music that
Hmm.
you wouldn't hear anywhere, and
Hmm.
Charo. I don't know if she has any hits in America. People know who she is,
Hmm.
but in the Latin countries, she's actually a big hit, and she
Hmm.
has a lot of hits. Edie
Hmm.
Gourmet,
Edie Gourmet.
Steve Lawrence's a wife,
Yes.
she died, but she was a big hit. She actually had a hit in America with
Uh-huh.
an English translation of one of her songs, "Blame It on the Bossa Nova." Yeah,
Yes.
that's her
Yes.
really her
Yes.
only hit. And
Yes.
then Vicky Carr is from Mexico, and she has a lot of hits in the Latin countries. But then she has a
Oh.
few hits in America. It must be
Hmm.
him. It must be him.
Yes.
And you go to Las Vegas, you saw all those people.
Hmm. Yeah, in Las Vegas, that's where all the people were back then. I'm telling you,
Mhm.
including Red Fox.
I saw when I've only been to Las Vegas once, and I saw Vicky Carr. She was the warm up.
Hmm.
I didn't go specifically to see her. I went to see Rich Little, and she was the warm up. So
Rich
and then
Little.
later I saw, and then later that I was there a week. I saw there wasn't a whole lot of celebrities there, and I saw Red Fox there.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice,
and he
nice.
was dead like a year later. Yeah,
Oh,
on the royal family, the
yes,
set of the royal family with Delta Burke as his wife.
yes.
Yeah.
They said that show was a big money hit. Unfortunately, when Red Fox died, they had to cancel the show because
Mm-hmm.
they just could not replace him.
They tried with, I think, Jack Kay or something,
Hmm.
and it was not Red. I mean, she's fine, but
Yeah, she's
she's
great,
not Red
but
Fox.
she's not Red Fox. Yeah. Recently, I've been looking on the internet. A couple of people have been looking at the Fred Sanford versus Aunt Esther episodes.
Oh yeah,
Oh, greatest things ever on
yeah.
TV. Loved it.
Red Fox, Aunt Esther, LaWanda Page was her
LaWanda
name,
Page,
and
yes.
she I don't know how funny she was on for Sanford and Son, but she is
Mhm.
actually was actually a comedian
Yes,
and a stand-up comedian, and she was a dirty comedian, just
yes,
like
she
Red Fox.
was. Oh,
And I guess
yes.
you could hear the albums where she's, but you never hear that. Well, you never heard Red Fox either,
Nope.
but you got a glimpse of Red Fox on Sanford and Son, what he
Yeah,
could be like.
yes.
But Red Fox would. I heard like he would. There's two comedians that were famous for being dirty comedians,
George
and
Carlin.
no, I'm talking about who had TV shows.
Oh, okay,
Red
okay, okay,
Fox
okay.
and Joey Ross from Car 54. Where are you? And they would
Oh,
actually sometimes do the warm up for their shows,
uh-huh.
and the audience would be flabbergasted to hear all this filth coming in. All right, now let's do the friggin' show or something, and then didn't say frick, and then the show would start. People, then they get into it.
Yeah,
Red
yeah.
Fox was the only, I think I tell you, was the only celebrity
Mhm.
to be at Elvis's wedding. And
What?
what was weird was it was before Sanford and Son when he was only known as a dirty comedian.
Right.
So, and Fred Sanford Red Fox
Uh-huh.
is a good example that you can be clean and
Yes.
still be funny. A lot
Yes.
of people, like you mentioned George Carlin, a lot of
Hmm.
sometimes you take the filth out of their routine. They're not as funny. But Red Fox would be funny. Yeah.
Yes, yes. He reinvents himself with Sanford and
Yeah.
Son, which I think is probably the number one comedy show of all time.
Yeah.
But that's just me. I think Married with Children also is a close
I
second.
I uh I can tell you about but let me tell you about Sanford. The
Hmm.
first time I saw the Sanford and Son show, I think it
Hmm.
was the second episode, It was on a week, and I missed it the first week, and then I
Uh-huh.
watched it the next week, and it was an episode. I mean, you can see them all in reruns, but this
Uh-huh.
was, I think it was Fred's birthday, and he complains at every where he goes, every
Mhm.
theater show that Lamont takes him to, every drink he gives him, and at the bar and everything. And I said, "This is hilarious. This is,"
Yeah.
and I and, and
Yeah.
and then every show after that was still pretty funny. But
Yes.
I remember that the first episode I saw was just so funny.
Yeah.
I tell you, the first, I think it was, San Francisco was the first show that I actually had a cassette tape
Mhm.
and taped the show. It was on like Fridays at 8 o'clock. It was the time I could watch it, and
Uh-huh.
and I because I was a little kid at the time, and I could tape it, and I all week long I just listened to it. Didn't
What?
even have to see. I mean, it was in your mind's
Right.
eye, and
Uh-huh.
I'd already seen it on television anyway.
Uh-huh.
But just hearing the jokes and the laughter, it was still funny. And that's probably the mark of a good show, that you could hear it and still
And
laugh at
still
it.
laugh at
Yeah,
it. That is
yeah.
timeless right there. But yeah, it's like, let's not forget our sponsors. Even though we missed the Joe Biden speech and I was still sleeping during it, we can't forget about skunk removing soap. Yes, gotta remove them skunks out of your life. You know what to do. Skunk removing soap. The Heartbreak Hotel. I know some of y'all people are going to go over there, especially some of you folks who are, I know who you are. And we actually have one new sponsor.
Ah,
It's called Tread Away.
tread,
Tread away.
tread,
Tread away.
tread
Tread
away.
away all of your problems by just giving them some little form of spray. Squeak, 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 tread away. Especially people. Tread away.
What? Just your problems?
Yeah, just your problems.
Like a psychiatrist in a can or something?
It is. It is. He jumps out.
So wrap your troubles in dreams. Dream away.
Dream away. We.
So,
Yeah,
wow.
so
And yeah. So,
yeah, I was thinking, Biden, which was so funny. Watch him fall up the steps
hmm
on Air Force One, and the poor guy, he's like, I don't know the poor guy, and then he stumbles and bumbles, and he says, that general guy, yeah, you know what I'm talking about, that general. And it's like, I don't know what you're
what
talking about,
general?
Biden.
General
It's,
Patton?
yeah.
He still thinks General Patton is the best. I actually, I know someone who actually saw it, and we were
Uh-huh.
talking about. I did it with somebody, and with a group of people, and he
Uh-huh.
told me that he liked the press conference, and he said that I said, did he embarrass himself? And he said, "No, not like you think." I
Mhm.
said, and then I said, did he mention like kids owning phonograph records today? Because he actually said, put away your phonograph records. That was when, I mean, when he was running for president last year, that was
Uh-huh.
when people started wondering. I think he's down for the, and I don't know how it worked, but
Right.
because Bernie and the others were kind of gaining some ground, and then all
Hmm.
of a sudden he moved up,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
for some reason he got a little smarter, and then now he's president.
Well,
So
it's what you call hide away for good.
that's right. He well, actually that's sort of a sound. Uh, it's sort of a sound strategy that when you don't really have you can only lose by talking. That's why a lot of
Hmm.
incumbents don't like doing debates, because
That's
they can
right.
only they're not going to gain anything. They're
That's
just going
right.
to fall. So I'm down here in the basement not saying anything. Let everyone else stumble around.
Yes. It's like, I got a question for you, Biden.
Yeah.
How does it feel to stumble at every speech when you don't practice? It's like, then, and now if I was in Biden's shoes, I'd be like, mm, I can't answer
Well, I think
that.
the only great, really, I don't know about other presidents, but Roosevelt, I do know he was a good speaker,
Yes,
and
very
Kennedy
good.
was a good speaker.
Kennedy
But I
was.
think, I mean, I think the greatest would be, I guess, in history would be, I guess, Abraham Lincoln
Abraham Lincoln. Oh,
had
yeah,
all
yeah,
these
yeah.
great speeches.
Yes, yes.
You can only fool, you can't fool all the people all the time.
Now, do you think Biden is going to be the new Ford?
Oh, Gerald Ford.
Yeah.
Uh, Gerald Ford was kind of just you talk about stumbling. He was always stumbling, but he also kind of stumbled into the presidency. I mean,
Yep,
he
yep, he
was a member
did.
of the House for at that time like 25, 30 years,
Hmm.
and he was picked, I think, just because he wasn't offensive. Everyone seemed to like him,
Hmm.
and he was a good guy to replace. When in all those turmoil with
With
Nixon,
Nixon and
yeah. So
everything,
so
yeah.
yeah. So and then of course he ran for re-election, but the pardoning of Nixon, and also the economy wasn't so great at that
Hmm.
point. So it was kind
Yeah.
of everything was working against him, and Carter won,
Yep.
and then things got worse, and because a lot of times they do get worse. They
Yes,
they,
they
they just
do.
kind of
Yep,
snowball,
yep, snowball.
and then of course with him with Carter it was the in fact Carter could have probably been reelected had it not been for the last year with the Iran hostages, and just
Yes,
made us
yes,
look so bad in America, and,
yes.
and we said we got to do
We
something.
gotta, we
Got to
gotta,
change guard here.
yeah, change. It's time to
Yeah.
change underwear.
Try to change the underwear. The president is the nation's underwear. Always remember that. And it comes a time you have to change the president.
Well, I tell you one thing.
When it sticks that bad.
Yes,
All right.
you gotta change it out.
Change it out.
Change it out. Yeah, and we got some good folks on the internet right now looking at us up. Thank you so much. Yeah. Hey. Yep. So, I was just talking to my friend Rachel
Mhm.
up in Maine,
Great.
and we were talking about some stuff, especially with travel, which a lot of things are going to start opening up real
Yeah.
soon, and hopefully Americans can get out and travel, go see things.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling this is going to be the biggest travel year ever in American history.
People are, we've been talking about this the last few weeks, but at the
Hmm.
same time, that they're like Texas has already declared itself maskless,
Hmm.
which I think is too soon. We
I
opened
think
up
it's too soon.
too soon last year. We had to close everything back up.
Hmm.
And with all the inoculations and vaccinations and everything, 1,000 people are still dying every day. So
Yeah,
yes, I mean,
yeah.
we like to think that things are getting better, and they are, but
Hmm.
but give it time.
Yeah.
It's more important that you stay healthy
Yes.
and alive.
Uh-huh.
And then next year, if we can't travel this year, maybe next year
Hmm.
we'll be healthier. When you're dead, you can't travel.
No,
Yeah, so
which is real
stay
sad.
healthy.
Stay
Yeah.
healthy. But we want to try to get everything back to normal because I know it's almost like a jail sentence that
Mm.
this virus has put on the whole entire world. And humans like us, we're not meant to sit in one spot.
We're social people.
We are
Yeah.
social. We are
Yeah.
social, political. No, not political. We're social people.
Yes. And even the popularity of Zoom and everything has shown, and also where are we going? Who are we visiting? Our families,
Yes,
you know.
yes.
Or or
And
or or if you're not a family person, then it's giving you an excuse not to hang around
that's
with them.
right.
Oh, I'd love to go to Thanksgiving, in 2020, but I
Yeah,
don't
no, no,
know.
no, no thanks. And that's how I'm doing with some of my friends on video phone calling. And Rachel, I thank you so much for telling me about video phone calls. I didn't know I could actually do it on my phone,
Yeah.
but it's only
Oh,
for
where you
6.
see the person?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yes.
I've done it a few times, but I didn't care for it. In fact, somebody called me a few days ago,
Uh-huh.
and I actually declined the call and then called them back and said, I don't want, I don't want you to see what I look like. I didn't brush my teeth or shave today. I'm kind of reveling in my own filth right now, my own stubble.
But the good news is when I call Rachel, I get to see her lovely, beautiful
Yes.
face. And
Well,
she
that
gets
part
to
is good.
talk to me, and I get to talk to her. And I don't feel as lonely because she lives so far away and I don't get a chance to see her often. So it's like
Mm,
I'm almost right there visiting her. And
yeah.
and you're right about that. It's
Okay.
like if some stranger comes in, it's like it could be I don't know. It could be the tax person. It's like they're calling you on a video conference call. It's like, no, I don't want to talk to you. Goodbye.
Well, you see on Zoom or what we're doing here, at least we're prepared for. We know what we're going to do.
Hmm.
I put on a nice tie and comb
Yes.
my hair.
Yes.
they called me out of the blue and they wanted to see what I look like, I don't want them to see what I look like. In fact, I don't want anyone to see how I live. Didn't make the bed today, I see. Right? So, yeah.
Yes. You know what, Kevin? People are picking people for that.
I know.
Yeah.
They and I gotta tell you something.
Yeah,
Wow,
sure.
every time I do a show like this,
Mhm.
and this today was no different.
Uh-huh.
I did what it's almost like going on a date or something. Or you know you're going to be on television or
Yes. Yes.
making a live appearance somewhere. You want to look your best. You shave.
Mhm.
You wash your hair and everything.
Yep.
But then you know when you wash your hair, and you might wash your hair once a week or once every few days or
Mhm.
something. It's harder to comb.
Yeah.
It's harder to comb, and and what's kind of neat is that my hair is like flying all over the place. But if I would have done the show yesterday with no hair wash, it was all stiff and greasy, and it combs and it stays in one place and it looks good. I don't have this mohawk going, and it's all just there like like Larry of the Stooges.
Yes, yes. You know what? That's a guy who had hair.
Yeah, I know. I think we were talking about the Three Stooges. I saw on another show. I saw like a picture or like home movies of the Three Stooges,
Mhm.
and Moe and Larry combed their hair differently. It's only when the
Yes.
cameras were running that they put the bangs and
Yes.
the Brillo pad hair.
You can tear Larry's hair out for days.
Oh
And
yeah.
he still got hair.
Yeah.
And I always am so flabbergasted by those guys.
Yeah.
I'm still shocked that they're all brothers. The original game.
Yeah. The first three, yeah.
Yeah, first
Yeah.
three is like
With the
my
Ted
goodness.
Healy, and it was and what was weird was I think I told you when Curly had to retire because he was
Yes.
sick all he
Yeah.
got a few strokes.
Mm-hmm.
They were suggesting all these people, and then Mo said, "What about my brother Shep?" And he says, "Well, you guys look too much alike, and we shouldn't have brothers on this." And he said, "Well, Curly is my brother. You didn't know Curly was
Yeah.
We're all brothers." Larry wasn't a brother.
Yeah. Larry was he that brother-in-law, right?
No, I don't think he was just
He was just a stooge.
well, yeah, he was
Okay.
they were all uh if you see any like old footage of Ted Healy and his I think it was Ted Healy and his three sisters, they were
Mhm.
just he was like the main guy, and he would like slap all three
Slap
of
them
them,
all.
and they didn't
Yeah.
have the distinct personalities. Mo the boss, and then Larry the middleman, and
Mm-hmm.
Curly the bonehead.
Mm-hmm.
They were all like the same. Just all the only way you could tell them apart was their haircuts. Then once they once Ted Healy was out of the picture and they did those shorts for Columbia
Yes.
Pictures, then they all got those distinct personalities. Yes.
And you know what was really sad? I was looking at the Three Stooges biography,
Hmm.
and when Curly died,
Hmm.
and then Shemp came back,
Yeah.
excuse me, and then when Shemp died,
Hmm.
Columbia Pictures
Yeah.
said, "We're not going to pay you two Stooges.
Yeah.
I'm always paying for three Stooges."
Yeah.
I forgot the guy who owns Columbia
Yeah.
Pictures.
Harry Cohn.
Hey, thank you, Harry Cohn.
He was a real. He was a. He was, I can tell you about Harry Cohn. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Mo had an idea
Yeah.
because the studio wanted to hire, Curly Joe and
Yeah.
all the rest of these
Joe
guys.
Besser.
Joe
Yeah. He
Besser
came first. Yeah.
became first, but Mo wanted to hire, and I forgot the guy's name, the black guy who is he's all in some of the shorts.
Oh, that guy. Okay.
Yeah, and I
He
don't
would be
remember
good.
his name. And Mo said that he would be a perfect
Yeah.
stooge because he knows our lines,
Yeah.
he knows our antics.
Yeah.
But of course, during those times, they didn't let a lot of black people become main
Stooges.
stars or stooges. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a real step up
yeah.
for minorities. Yeah.
But Mo thought of him so much
Yeah.
that he wanted him to be the third stooge
Yeah.
really bad.
Mhm.
And the guy accepted,
Mhm.
but then Columbia stepped in and said,
Yeah.
"No, we're not going to have him as a stooge."
Yeah.
So
They didn't really
sad story.
put too much faith in the Stooges. They constantly asked the Stooges to. I mean, the Stooges constantly asked Columbia pictures. We're doing so well with the shorts. Why can't you put us in a a 2 hour film or something like the
Yeah.
Marx Brothers, something or the Ritz Brothers, or yeah, but Laurel and Hardy.
Laurel
And
Hardy,
and
yes.
they said no, we're going to keep you in shorts. And then it
Mm.
wasn't until they were basically fired like in the mid 50s
Mhm.
after the Joe Besser ones, and then they were shown on television, the
Yep.
old ones, and they became popular again, and they were appeared on the variety shows and stuff,
Mhm.
and then not Columbia Pictures, some maybe, but all other like MGM and 20th Century Fox produced full length films with the new stooge Curly Joe. Yeah,
Mhm. Now, didn't
and they're all worth a look.
yeah, they're all worth a look. And I'm
Yeah.
and the one that let's see, who was the third Stooge after Curly
Well, no, I'll tell you, it was first it was Curly, and then it was
Joe?
Shemp, and
Yeah,
then it was Joe. It
yeah,
was Joe Besser,
Joe
who
Besser.
actually had a good career before and a good career
Mm-hmm.
after on the Joey Bishop show and the Abbott Costello show. He
Mm-hmm.
also did the voice of the genie no, not the genie in that cartoon Genie. Remember there was a cartoon version of I Dream of Genie,
Oh
and
yes, yes. Okay, okay,
Babu
okay.
was the genie's name.
Yes,
He
Babu.
was the voice of
Yes.
Babu, and he kept that
Yeah.
going to the 1980s.
What?
Yeah,
Wow.
so he had a good career, and then Curly Joe was Joe DeRita, the only Italian stooge. The all others were
Uh-huh.
Jewish, and he was in the movies pretty much and the TV
Yes.
shows. But you mentioned Harry Cohen. The famous story about
Mm-hmm.
Harry
Yep.
Cohen was, he was a really miserly owner of Columbia
Mm-hmm.
Pictures, which was the cheapest. And they made good
Yes.
movies, but they were the of all the movie studios, is the one you wanted to work least for.
Yes.
So the joke was when he died,
Uh-huh.
everyone in Hollywood showed up at his funeral.
Uh-huh.
And they goes, and somebody said, I thought he was such a hated man.
Yeah.
And Red Skelton was there, and he said,
Uh-huh.
"No, Harry Cohn believed that you give the public what they want, they'll all come."
Oh,
And then
wow.
another story I've heard about that was, so all those people showed up just to make sure he was dead. um,
Yeah.
there was a talk that
Uh-huh.
before the Great Dictator, which was a
Uh-huh.
spoof of Hitler by Chaplin,
Mm-hmm.
that Hitler made a 10 most enemies, most hated comedians in the world
Oh, wow.
of because they were offensive to him
Right, right,
because of
right.
what they did. And the Three Stooges did that "You Nazi spy" spoof
Yes,
before
yes,
Chaplin did.
yes.
And then there was a spoof of the Nazis by Jack Benny called
Uh-huh.
"To Be or Not to Be," which became a remake with Mel Brooks and Anne Bancroft. You might have seen that one,
Mm-hmm.
or you might have
Yes.
seen the original.
Yep.
And Chaplin was there, and he was, as it turns out, kind of hesitantly on the list because this was the thing.
Oh.
The story goes is that Hitler was very offended
Mm-hmm.
by um, by Chaplin, and this is why.
Huh.
Jack Benny and the Three Stooges were Jewish, so he didn't really expect too much from them, making
Okay.
fun of them.
Right.
Chaplin wasn't Jewish,
Uh-huh.
but
Uh-huh.
Hitler was personally a fan of Chaplin's and may have taken that mustache as a homage to
Yeah.
Chaplin. So then when it turns around and Chaplin makes a movie in America where he's
Uh-huh.
spoofing Hitler with the same mustache, it's also his first talking movie.
Right,
And
right.
he felt very betrayed. How would you like it? And then it's kind of funny.
Yes,
How would
yes,
you like
yes.
it? We're controversial people,
Yes, we are.
and we
We
found
are.
out that our idols
Uh-huh.
hate our work and want to make fun of our work, and want to tear down our work. The
Yes,
same thing for him.
yes, yes. You know what? I feel very bad because it'll be like gorgeous George doing our terrible work for our show.
You're gorgeous, Jordan. Oh yeah,
But
but
you know what's really funny that I think the the Curly Joe
mhm.
didn't want to get hit by pies or anything.
Oh, it's Joe. Yeah, no, he didn't want to get hit in the face.
He didn't want to get hit in the face.
He gets
Okay,
hit a few
okay.
times, but for the most part, he doesn't get hit. So it was basically just, and he had it in his contract, not that
Right,
you're not going to hit me.
right.
You're going to hit Larry. Or
Oh,
Larry will hit you,
right,
Mo, but you're not. It's not going to happen to me.
right.
I remember him taking his licks a few times, but I only found that out, after. I mean, this was before I was born. They were
Mhm.
doing these, but they didn't make a whole lot with Joe. Only about 16 shows.
Mhm.
A lot of those shorts are have to do with outer space and stuff
Yeah.
because there was a lot of rocket ships.
Yes.
I think the
Yes.
Russians had a cosmonaut up in space.
Cosmonauts.
Yuri Gagarin. Yeah.
But still, the Three Stooges had the last word because I think they made more money than Abbott and Costello and Lauren
Yeah.
Hardy and everybody else.
Well, they had the longest career. As you know from the movie Stan and Ollie, the Laurel and
Hmm.
Hardy had a hard time getting ending their career. They spent that live performance in England,
Hmm.
and that a doomed movie they made in France called Utopia,
Ah,
and then he died. Hardy, and then for the next 10 years, Laurel didn't do anything, but he was in retirement.
right.
And then who's the other one you mentioned? Abbott
Abbott
and
and Costello,
Costello
yeah.
broke up, but a lot of that was caused by they owed the just like Willie Nelson, these people, Joe Lewis owed
Oh,
the IRS a lot of money. They had a manager that stole all their money, and the trouble is
oh.
when you have a manager steals all your money,
Hmm.
then you still have to pay taxes on it. And so they
Yeah.
stayed out of jail, but they had
Mm.
everything taken away from them.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
terrible.
So and same with Joe Lewis, and same
Hmm.
Joe Lewis had
Joe
to fight
Lewis, yes.
had this fight with Rocky Marciano, who was way
Yes.
past his prime,
Yes.
and actually
Yes.
while Marciano was pulverizing him, he was
Hmm.
basically looking at the referee, says, "Please end this," and it's
Yeah.
known
Yeah.
as the saddest day ever in American sports. Was that
Wow.
fight? Yeah.
Because I remember Joe Lewis in his prime, of
Hmm.
course, was the greatest boxer ever.
Hmm.
But Rocky Marciano, being a younger
Yeah.
fighter, he wanted to take on his idol Joe Lewis
Yeah.
just to see how things would go.
Yeah.
But Joe Lewis was already what, 25 years older
Yeah.
than Rocky,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, it was one of the fights that kept Rocky's undefeated streak
Yeah.
going.
Never lost.
Never lost, but still, that fight should have really been taken away
Yeah.
because Joe Lewis was not in his prime. But
I
if
don't think
you,
even Rocky wanted to fight it. Yeah.
mm,
Yeah.
but then again, when you're being hounded by the IRS tax man,
Yeah.
I can understand that. It's like, you know what? If I'm being hounded by the IRS tax man, I guess I'm gonna have to fight too. I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to go into a big boxing ring and maybe try to get with Mike Tyson or somebody like that. And I think we're both the same age, but still, I don't know how well I
Yeah.
would do.
Mike Tyson. Yeah. Well, a lot of these fighters, uh, even Mike Tyson, his
Hmm.
last fight, he retired after he lost it. He said, this is the last
This is
fight you'll ever
it.
see
This
me
is
do.
it. But
Yeah.
I heard some new news. Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield were supposed to do another fight with
Mm,
each other, and each bout
mm,
boxer was going to get $25 million.
yeah.
But Mike Tyson said, "Nope, I'm not doing it."
Yeah. The money is such a big draw. They get
Hmm.
for one fight they make a lot of money,
Hmm.
but they don't really make a lot of money because
No.
I went to a fight when I was in Las Vegas. It
Uh
was
huh.
Evander who won the championship from Buster Douglas,
Oh
and
yes,
Buster
yes,
Douglas was
yes.
only champ for the one
One time.
time, and they each got something like 10 or $15 million each, but they
Hmm.
wound up the Don King making a few million, and the manager making it. And
Oh.
by the time it got to, I think in the case of Buster Douglas, he got less than $1 million.
Ooh.
Everybody else, on him made the money. And
Right.
it didn't. And then usually in prize fights, it doesn't really matter who wins as far as
Hmm.
money goes. It's just how much the take, how many people want to see it, either in person and also on pay per view.
Yes,
Yeah. So
yes.
boxing is the red light district of sports. It
Hmm.
says
It
there's
is.
no insurance plan.
Nope.
There's no retirement plan.
Nope.
These guys. Joe Lewis wound up a greeter in Las Vegas when you walk through the
Yeah,
casino,
I've
shaking people hand.
heard.
Might tip him or
Oh,
something. But he
wow.
appeared on You Bet Your Life and won $50 with
With
Groucho.
Groucho.
And
Hmm.
what was sad was he needed the $50.
Oh.
He didn't point that out,
Oh.
Groucho, because he
Yeah.
knew. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Or else Groucho would have been sucker punch.
You know, so yeah, so and don't think it can't happen again. There's a lot of crooks in boxing.
Don King.
Yeah,
And same thing for wrestling. There's no retirement plan, there's no insurance, there's none of these off days. So
yeah,
like all these wrestling organizations, just like with boxing,
yeah.
you're stuck. And if you get hurt or anything like that, you're on your own.
Well, you know, boxing. When I was a kid, people, really ate up boxing when I was a kid.
Yes, yes,
And there
yes,
would
yes.
be these, and what was the draw in these when I
I'm
was a
sorry.
kid was there would be these magazines, boxing magazines, and they'd have all these
Mhm.
bloody pictures.
Oh,
And somebody told me that wrestling is fake and everything, and they said, but the bleeding is not fake.
no.
They actually they do a lot of like tumble saws and a lot
Hmm.
of gymnastics to make it look
Yes,
believable,
yes,
but they will also have like a razor blade to cut
yes.
them just so they'll bleed for the
Hmm.
audience. And
Yes.
there was actually trouble with this also was before AIDS, and they had to kind of
Hmm.
curb that because I think a few low-level wrestlers got AIDS from blood
Yes.
infection. Anytime you bleed, there's always a chance for
Infection
an
of some sort.
infection or a
Yeah.
blood poisoning or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep your blood in your
Oh.
body unless you're donating blood. And so and yeah, and that kind of freaked me out, and almost to the point where I did not want to go to wrestling anymore.
Ooh. Well, you know
On
what?
television, you didn't see the blood, but
No.
in the magazines, they seem to harp on that a
Yeah,
lot. Yeah,
it sells the
colors. Yeah.
magazines. But I remember one wrestler, Abdullah the Butcher.
Mhm.
He was world famous for that, cutting himself all the time,
Yeah.
but he attracted AIDS.
There you go. There you
And
go. He must be the one I was thinking of.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he got some
Yeah.
guy, some poor English man who was, they were battling in, I
Mm.
believe, Tokyo. He cut himself, didn't let the guy know he was going to cut himself,
Yeah.
and somehow his blood got infected into the
Yeah.
poor English man, and he also got
Yeah.
HIV. So
Yeah.
it's
Then there's
terrible.
uh then there's that you don't hear so much about wrestling, the UFC
Oh
fighters,
yeah,
and
UFC,
that looks
yes,
like just
yes.
like a cockfight
Oh
with
yeah,
humans. Yeah.
yeah. That's all it is.
Yeah.
You don't want to mess with them.
And yet I don't do people die doing that? Because I was led to
No.
believe that when it first came out, these were fights to the death. But
Yes.
but then I don't really hear of John Cena dying. So does he kill every person? Is it like the Hunger Games? They're all dead except for one guy.
Except for one guy.
Rollerball.
No,
Yeah.
but I actually knew um, the brother of the guy who originally started the UFC.
Yeah.
Um, he used to own an arcade here in Richmond,
Yeah.
and his brother was like one of the owners or one of the vice presidents.
Mhm.
And he told me about UFC. He says, this is how we do it. We're much better than boxing. We take all the covers off the rules of
Yeah.
boxing and we let them go at it.
Yeah.
But we control the sport
Yeah.
by not letting people punch each other too much.
Yeah.
So no permanent damage
They
can be
stop it.
done. They stop it
Well,
before it gets really, really bad.
I've never really seen a whole thing. I've only watched it until I
Yeah,
can't watch it anymore.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But what
yeah.
is the like? What are the rules?
There,
There aren't any.
there
You
really
have no
aren't any
problem.
rules.
You won't have a hard time following it.
So it's all types of physical contact, boxing, Thai, karate,
Kicking,
kicking,
a lot of kicking. I think
headbutting,
kickboxing. Yeah.
maybe, or not eye gouging
How
because they got
about
gloves on.
how about biting an ear like Mike
No,
Tyson?
no, 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 nothing like that.
The boundary.
Nothing like that. So what you do is you got to grapple your man to the ground
Mhm.
or punch him to submission,
Mhm.
and then the referee will just come in and stop the whole entire fight. Some of these fights will only last maybe 10 seconds because some guy gets cold cocked, boom, he's out.
That's
Referee
me.
counts it. That's it. That's it. Or you can have fights that last like 5 rounds and about 3 minutes each.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, is there there 5 rounds?
Well, there could be more than that.
Yeah.
It all depends on the pay-per-view event,
Yeah.
and it depends on where they're located at. Because some UFC rules are different cities.
Yeah.
They will only allow maybe 3 rounds.
Wow.
Others maybe five
Oh, it's a
rounds.
city to city
Sometimes it's
rules. Yeah.
city-to-city rules.
Yeah.
But UFC usually, I think they have a 5 round fight because I think that's all the fighters can withstand.
You know, uh, heavyweight boxing? What's that? Like
Mhm.
10 rounds, 15 rounds?
Yes, 10 rounds. Now,
And it's what 2 3 minute rounds and
yes.
a minute between.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember watching them on television as a kid, and the ABC Wide World Sports, the live ones,
Oh,
and
yes.
and as soon as the ding ding, they would go right to a commercial because they only had a minute
Yes.
to go to show maybe two,
Ding, ding.
one commercial or two 3 minute
Yes.
second commercials, and then the ding ding is back.
Ding,
They're back again. Yeah,
boxing,
this is
boxing.
before video. I mean, before home video and stuff. So
Yes.
you watched it.
Yeah. I mean, ABC Wide World of Sports got ratings off
Yeah.
that stuff. But speaking of
Always watched
sports,
it.
always
I mean,
watched
in
it,
fact,
loved it,
the
loved it.
wide world of sports, when it was boxing, I might skip it every once in a while, but the boxing, I always like, oh, I gotta watch that.
Oh,
I gotta
yes,
watch
yes.
that. Yeah.
I would watch that or Little League World Series.
Little League,
Yes.
Williamsport.
Yes, love that stuff. But speaking of sports, it's March Madness.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
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 And
No.
no. No. What happened to
The
Virginia?
defending champions of 2 years.
Of 2 years.
2 years straight.
Virginia.
They won by forfeit last year. and then they won the first time was truly amazing. But then this year, if you like Virginia's basketball, VCU and Tech and UVA, all gone.
All gone. All Virginia teams. We had 5 of them. We had VCU, Virginia Tech, Liberty,
Liberty. That's right.
Norfolk
Liberty's there.
State, and of course Virginia. All 5 of them gone in the first round. 4 defeats and 1 COVID.
Yeah.
Which sucked.
What was the COVID?
VCU.
I mean, they tell us about that.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
VCU. When they went to Indianapolis, they got tested before the Oregon game. They found out like 3 or 4 of their players had COVID.
Wow.
So under Marion County rules, which if anybody who don't know about Indiana, Indianapolis is in Marion County.
Okay.
They said that you must have at least maybe 1 or 2 players. We'll say A-OK. You might play the game.
Yeah.
But more than 2 players, I think they said your team can't play.
Well, couldn't they just they should have got on Broad Street and said, "Hey, anyone here play basketball?
Yeah,
we don't want to forfeit. It's better that we lose.
Yes,
with the worst players than have to forfeit."
Yeah, I know, and that was so sad because VCU could have had a shot against Oregon.
Yeah.
And then Oregon beat I forgot who they beat. They made the next step down around the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
Oral Roberts, yeah, and Loyola Chicago, yeah. Sweet 16, yes. Pac-12 doing very well.
Oral and Loyola.
Oral and Loyola.
That's a twister of tongues.
and my bracket's completely blown to bits. Actually, I didn't do a bracket.
I didn't do it either. Well, I really can't do a bracket. I'll tell you why. Because this is my rule about gambling. If you have a rooting interest and it's very hard in March Madness because everyone, has a college team they like that's probably in there. And you want them, you're going to put them in they're going to go all the way. And they're not going to go all the way. One team might.
Yeah. Well, 2 teams who I thought were going to go to the Final Four, I lost them.
Yeah.
I was thinking Texas, University of Texas, good old Shaka Smart, our buddy, and who was the other one that lost? Illinois. Yeah, I thought those 2 were going to make it to the Final Four.
But it's funny you mention that because this is how I do the bracket. I pick intelligently every team. And then it gets the University of Virginia, and then I was like, they're going to win. And then, maybe they're up against a team that Kansas or something or Gonzaga. And that they're not going to. They probably won't. But actually, in theory, any team could win.
Yes. Any team can win. Yes.
It's like football. And I was told, especially in basketball, because they're all great players.
Yes.
The only thing that differs, I was told this years ago about teams on the professional level, even the college level. They're all good, and the teams aren't really all that different from each other.
Not really.
It's the coaching, and that's what wins it. That's why they fire the coach. They don't fire the individual players when the teams are losing. In fact, there are certain play like in baseball, like the day Pete Rose somebody, Barry Bonds. He's going to hit a lot of home runs for you. But I mean, a coach of any team any sport, it's not that you have Pete Rose or Barry Bonds or Tom Brady or something. It's that you have a guy that's probably, how can I use this guy? And then, of course, that guy, it usually happens a lot in baseball. They get traded to another team, and that coach does not know how to use them. Don't know how to use them. I'll put you at first base.
Well, you know what? I guarantee you, baseball starts next week, and
I love it.
yes,
Who
April
doesn't like
1st. Yeah, April 1st, right?
That's Thursday.
Yeah.
We're in April on Thursday. April Fool's
Day.
Day.
Is this going to be an April Fool's joke?
We'll start baseball.
Start baseball. It's like, sorry, it's an April Fool's joke. We're not going to start baseball this year.
We had an abbreviated.
Yeah, we have an abbreviated
last
season.
year.
Thank you for the comment. Thank you. We're going to, the commissioner, believe it or not, this was so nice of him. Commissioner, I don't know who the new commissioner is of baseball now. I forgot that guy's name. Yeah, whoever he is. He gave me a call. Yeah, it was real nice. He said that you don't have to worry about this year's baseball season for the Orioles because they're not going to make it.
Well, baseball is a hard game too because you have 150 game season more or less, and then this is how it was broken down to me. I think I mentioned this before. Is that the best team loses? No, the worst team loses 2/3 of their games.
Yes.
The best team wins 2/3 of the games.
Yes.
And it's really those 50 games in the middle that decide who's going to
do what. Yeah.
I mean, there are teams that, like a month and a half after 10 games down, and they can still overcome it.
Yeah.
New York Giants in 1951, Bobby Thompson's home run.
Yeah.
And then that was a big deal. And won the game against the Brooklyn Dodgers. And you do. That's what's great about sports is that these come from behind situations.
Yes,
that's what's great about life.
It is, and I tell you, even though the Orioles will not do well, the Nationals they'll probably pick up the slack for the Mid-Atlantic region. So hopefully the Nationals will do well. But yeah, you know what? It's almost time to end our show.
I've met.
Yes.
I got to tell you, I've met.
Yes.
Commissioner of baseball. One commissioner, Billy Kuhn, came to when I went to UVA law school. He came. He came with Howard Cosell. And they both they were there together and they were giving, offset their speeches, but everyone's there for Howard Cosell.
Of course.
But I got to meet them both. And then I met the son of a commissioner. I made the film John Adams.
Dave Vincent?
And no, Paul Giamatti.
Paul Giamatti,
who played Pig Vomit in Big Fat Big Blue Liar or whatever that movie was called. Paul Giamatti's father, Bart Giamatti, kicked Pete Rose out of baseball. And then died a week later. Yeah, of a sudden heart attack. Yeah.
Which I could not understand.
So I met the son of, and when I met him, I said, "I'm a big fan of your father." He goes, "Oh, thank you."
Well,
Commissioner of baseball. Yeah.
Once again, you learned some stuff here on the show, and if you haven't learned anything on the show, then you're probably doing yourself a-okay.
Be sure to pay your taxes. We're talking about taxes.
Yes.
Let me tell you something about paying. Take all the deductions. I think it's very patriotic to pay your taxes.
Yes.
So I could be just as patriotic paying half of them.
You better talk to some people in government then. Once again, our sponsors, Skunk Removing Soap. Yep, get rid of that skunk in your life. And we got a skunk in our life, and we scrub them out.
Pepe Le Pew.
Pepe Le Pew.
We won't be seeing too much of it anymore.
Oh, which is so sad. He's been canceled. And of course,
well, actually, I never thought he was all that funny anyway. It's the same. I thought it was the same cartoon over and over again.
You're right. It's the same act.
I didn't know they made different ones. There's actually, I think, 16 of them, and they're all. You watch them back to back. They're all the same. Not a whole lot different from them.
And of course, Heartbreak Hotel. Yes, you folks. Some of you need to go to Heartbreak Hotel, and we know who you are. And our new guy, Treadaway. Yes, in a can. Just spray it. Boom. Psychologist comes out. Boom. Tread away all your problems.
Yes. Thanks for having me here on your wonderful show.
Yes, sir.
And the pleasure was yours.
Yeah.
No, I had a good time.
Thank you, Kevin,
I always
so
have a good
much.
time.
I always say we're glad that you watched our show. Bring on the next guy.
Bring on another.
We will see you again on another Vinny Mac show later on down in the future. For everybody who's watching, thank you so much. And until then, it's good night. Bye-bye.
Wait, he gets